In 1974, Don Felder joined the Eagles, and almost overnight, their signature sound transformed. Up to that point, the Eagles were known for their soft harmonies, gentle acoustic textures, and laid-back country rock ballads. Songs like Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling had brought them commercial success, but they hadn't yet crossed the threshold into the kind of explosive, arena-dominating sound that would come to define them in the years ahead. Felder changed that. He brought with him a powerful combination of blues, rock, and southern grit, along with years of technical mastery that few in the band could match. He didn't just add guitar, he added thunder. Felder's arrival introduced a new musical vocabulary to the Eagles: layered, harmonized solos, complex progressions, intricate counterpoints, and a harder-edged tone that pushed their songs from mellow to monumental. His guitar work added weight and bite to their recordings. Suddenly, the Eagles weren't just a band, they were a sonic force. He blended effortlessly into their harmony-heavy sound but gave it backbone and bite. Felder wasn't a backup player, he became an essential piece of the creative engine driving their evolution. His most legendary contribution came in 1976 with Hotel California. The song began as a simple instrumental demo recorded on a 12-string guitar in Felder's Malibu home. But what it became, thanks in large part to his iconic guitar solo, was a cultural landmark. That solo, blending melody with haunting precision, became one of the most celebrated and recognizable in rock history. It didn't just complete the song, it gave it its soul. The music soared, layered with emotion and defiance, a perfect reflection of the song's eerie mystique. To millions of fans, that solo wasn't just a moment, it was the moment, a defining pillar of the Eagles' identity. Felder's playing elevated them from popular to immortal. It was the turning point. The band had never sounded more powerful, more complete. The silent war behind the scenes. But while fans embraced his sound, the power dynamics inside the band were beginning to shift. The Eagles may have sung about harmony, but inside the band, there was anything but. Behind the curtain of flawless live shows, platinum records, and Grammy wins lay a power structure defined not by collaboration but by hierarchy. At the top of that pyramid stood Don Henley and Glenn Frey, the undisputed leaders, calling the shots with an iron grip. They weren't just co-founders of the band, they were its executives in all but name. Every major decision ran through them: which songs made it onto albums, who sang lead, what the set lists looked like, and most importantly, how the money was split. In public, the Eagles looked like a unified force. But privately, it was clear, Henley and Frey were the brand, and everyone else played supporting roles, regardless of talent or contribution. That included Don Felder. Despite his immeasurable influence on the band's evolution, he co-wrote Hotel California, delivered the guitar work that fans still worship, and helped usher in the band's harder, more dynamic sound. In the boardroom, he was barely a voice in the conversation. Time and again, he was excluded from financial discussions, dismissed in creative meetings, and made to feel more like a sideman than a full-fledged member. It didn't sit right with him. Felder began to ask questions, reasonable ones. Why did Henley and Frey earn significantly more? Why were decisions made in private and presented as a done deal? Why were the contributions of others, especially in songwriting and musicianship, being so blatantly overlooked? But instead of answers, Felder received thinly veiled hostility. His questions were treated not as valid concerns but as threats. And just like that, the image of Don Felder began to change, not within the public eye, but inside the band. He wasn't a team player anymore. He was difficult. That label, vague but damaging, began to stick. Management started treating him differently. His input was questioned, his motives doubted, his presence increasingly marginalized. The coldest goodbye. Worse, the band began painting him as difficult, a label that soon came with consequences. Things reached a boiling point in 1994 during the Hell Freezes Over reunion. an event that was marketed as a fresh start but quickly exposed the cracks that never healed. After 14 years of silence, the Eagles reunited with massive fanfare. The tour was a global success, and the accompanying live album reminded everyone just how powerful the band could be. On stage, it looked like nothing had changed. Felder was there, right where he belonged, nailing the solos, blending into the harmonies, and delivering the same magic that helped define the band's golden era. Fans saw unity, strength, and nostalgia. But behind the scenes, the old dynamics had returned, more entrenched than ever. Felder was again pushed to the sidelines when it came to decision-making. Despite being a full-time member, he had no meaningful say in the band's business affairs. Henley and Fry retained total control over finances, tour planning, album production, everything. Felder had hoped that the reunion would come with a reset, a chance for shared respect and transparency. But it quickly became clear that nothing had changed. The hierarchy remained untouched. He was expected to perform, not participate. The tension became unbearable, subtle at first, then unmistakable. And then, in February 2001, came the blow that stunned even Felder. Without warning, without conversation, he received a fax, a cold one-page document stating that he was fired. No call. No meeting. No gratitude. After nearly 3 decades of service, creativity, and sacrifice, he was removed with the push of a button. There were no goodbyes, just an administrative decision, executed like a business transaction. For a man who helped define the band's most iconic sound, it was a brutal betrayal. He wasn't let go like a partner, he was discarded like a problem that had lingered too long. Felder had been erased. The Eagles had built their image on unity and harmony. Now, that image was under a harsh spotlight. The lawsuit cut deep. It revealed not only creative differences, but a toxic imbalance of power, one that many suspected but few had dared to speak about. Fans were rattled. Could the same group that sang about freedom and innocence really be run like a corporate empire, driven by ego and control? The media erupted. Headlines chronicled every twist and turn, dissecting contracts, royalty splits, and behind-the-scenes dynamics. Suddenly, the Eagles' flawless reputation was unraveling. But for Felder, this wasn't about revenge or retribution. It wasn't a power grab or a plea to get back in the band. He didn't want another tour or another hit record. What he wanted, what he needed, was to set the record straight, to claim his rightful place in the story he helped build. The lawsuit dragged on for years, filled with tension, sealed depositions, and legal maneuvering. Then, in 2007, it ended, not with a dramatic trial, but with a quiet settlement behind closed doors. The details were kept confidential. No one would ever know what was paid or what was promised. But the outcome spoke volumes. The damage to the illusion of unity was irreversible. And Felder had made it clear, he wasn't just another ex-band member. He had been a cornerstone of their success, and he wasn't going to be erased quietly. The memoir that told it all. Felder still had more to say, and he chose to say it in the most public way possible. In 2008, Don Felder made the most decisive move yet in reclaiming his story. He published Heaven and Hell, My Life in the Eagles, a memoir that pulled no punches. It wasn't crafted to save face or to dance around uncomfortable truths. It was unfiltered, raw, and unapologetically real. Unlike most rock star memoirs that gloss over internal strife in favor of glamour, Felder's book read like a cathartic release decades in the making. He exposed the inner workings of a band that to the outside world looked untouchable. But inside, it was riddled with manipulation, unchecked egos, and a ruthless power dynamic that crushed collaboration. He detailed the battles over songwriting credits, the exclusion from business meetings, and the growing realization that his creative input, while central to the band's success, meant little when decisions were made. Felder wasn't bitter for the sake of it. His tone was that of a man desperately trying to be heard after years of silence. He wasn't lashing out. He was speaking up, for the first time. Fans were given an unfiltered view into how one of the most successful rock bands in the world operated, more like a corporate boardroom than a brotherhood of musicians. The backlash from the Eagles camp came quickly. Don Henley's legal team pounced, attempting to suppress specific portions of the audiobook and accusing Felder of violating past agreements.